but it's indirectly. We don't know the exact concentration. And the next one is agar. Yes?
Can you please switch on the video? We cannot see the speaker.
Oh, really? 1 second. No, I guess when I'm doing sharing the screens, slides, I can't switch on my video. That's what it's showing. You can share your video when you are done screen sharing. Because I can't do both, I guess.
Okay. Normally it is possible here, yeah.
Really?
Mm.
Because when I'm pressing the video, it's telling you can share your video when you are done with your screen sharing. Because I'm sharing the screen, that's why I can't share my video, I guess. Maybe the last when I switch on the PowerPoint, maybe I can do this.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have done earlier. Is it okay?
Okay, okay.
So now the slides are visible, right?
Yes, slides are visible.
Yeah. So like I said, there are 3 polymers already. It's very popular and we are all aware of it. So the one is ketosine, alginate, and carrageenan. The next 3 are little, quite new for people, especially in India. It's like carrageenan, alvan, and fucoidine. These 3 polymers belongs to a certain category. They call it a sulfated seaweed polysaccharide because this carrageenan, alvan, and fucoidine, these 3 polysaccharides have sulfate moiety on the backbone. That means sulfate is there, it's more beneficial, whether you consider antimicrobial, antifungal, whatever it is. So the first 3 are quite known, but carrageenan, alvan, and fucoidine yet to be explored in India, though it's very popular and well explored in Western countries. So like I said, there are 3 kind of seaweeds. One is red, brown, and green. I'm more interested in green because in India, according to our weather and geoclimatic condition, the green seaweed can sustain temperature, wind, and other stuff. So we are more interested on green seaweed. The green seaweed is generally alva family. They call it as alva, and more interested on the alvan. This is the extract from the green seaweed. The next ones, like I said, what is seaweed? The seaweeds are the sea vegetable existing on the surface of the seawater. Compared to this seaweed, we do have a land, we do have a forest, we have a green resources. That's what people are exploiting to develop material like cellulose, lignin, other polysaccharide. So when you compare these, we can equally contribute whatever the forest is doing for us, right from food, it's a feed for many things, it's a colloids and formal energy like that. What way these seaweeds are better than our existing existing forest because of the higher biomass production. And the second most important thing is in forest or land, if we develop a garden, we need to give them a allotted space. Whereas in the case of seaweeds, it grows on the sea. So these seaweeds doesn't compete. There is no competition between land compared to our land resources like forest, and we don't need to give any agricultural input, fertilizer, minerals, or nutrient. We don't need to give because the seawater is very rich in minerals and ions. So we don't need to externally support anything. Whereas in the case of land farming, we have to give time to time fertilizer and other stuff. So another important thing is the depolymerization. When you cut a tree and try to extract the cellulose, every tree you have a lignin. Lignin is a very complicated higher molecular weight component, and it's very, very difficult and time consuming and energy consuming to remove the lignin, because unless and otherwise you don't remove the lignin, so extracting the cellulose is a difficult process. Whereas in the case of seaweed, the seaweed doesn't have a lignin, only it has a green. So it doesn't have any lignin. So the characterization part or extraction part is very easy. And the photosynthesis, because the sea is open, the sunlights are there, the photosynthetic rate is quite high. And one more important stuff is the people are talking about how to capture the CO2, but the seaweeds are already naturally capturing the CO2 or CO2 capture process compared to our thing. So generally, when we concentrate on the seaweed cultivation, we don't need to compete with our land resources. That's why Indian government is giving more fund now, like these academic years, to develop projects and research on seaweeds. So generally, when you look overthrow, but the seaweeds or look like unwanted material, because even I myself felt before going to Japan, what is this stinky materials lying on the water? No, but it's not actually weed. It's a highly nutritious compound which has a lot of minerals, cellulose, carbohydrate, natural dye and other things. So from overall, if you look, it looks like a weed, but it is not weed. Actually, it's a seed. It's very nutritious. The technical term they call it as acroaspid. People do cultivate when we are doing the thing. Like I said, it has biomass means automatically the carbohydrate content is very high, and we have a productivity ratio is very high. So instead of considering these as a weed, we should consider as seeds or really good for our societal applications. So they are more of concentrated on greens because of the sustainability and growth rate in India, especially compared to other Western countries. So I have chosen this Alba fasciata. It's a green seaweed family. This can grow everywhere. Whenever you see this water with green color leaf, that Alba family. This Alba fasciata is one particular subspecies specimen of this Alba family. So what we do, we go to the seashore and there is a sea tide level. There is a sea wave, high tide, low tide. There are some calendars are there. So we have to make sure the tide is low, because high tide we can collect the sample. When the sea tide is low, then there are some. It's all based on the no moon, full moon factor. We go and collect the sample. The second picture shows the huge quantity. We used to go like together 5 people from the lab. We collect in kgs and kgs of algae with the help of some technical people, and we bring it to the lab and we try to wash like 3 to 4 times washing to remove the dirts and other things, and try to dry in our lab in ambient condition for day. Then if you want to directly use to extract that polymer, you can directly take, or we make sure we store in ambient condition so that throughout the year we can use, or whenever we need emergency we can use. But generally the alba fascia, the major components what we observed after extracting, we are able to get close to 40%. You see the lipid is 1.8%. And more than that, there is one more content that is called moisture. That is the reason in today's cosmetic world, the people are using the cosmetic as another thing. They're using seaweed because it has a natural, abundant quantity of moisture. Close to 18 or 19% is the reason people are using this for moisturizing creams and carbon hydrogen. But most important is we are more interested in the sulfur content, because sulfated polysaccharide we are getting close to 6% of sulfur, which is more beneficial in antimicrobial and antifungal applications. If you take the alpha fasciata, do all the extraction procedure, this table shows the more or less value or the component exists from this seaweed. So whatever we are considering as a weed is not a weed, it's a patch. What we did is we have a lot of procedure to do. This is the one page we and this is the sample. We try to do different optimization where we are getting the maximum concentration of the cellulose. We fix with this procedure, and this is your final product. This is the green color, the seaweed we are getting. After doing extraction, we are getting the fine, first crude and semi-crude and fine cellulose powder. This cellulose is exactly matching with the commercial or land-based cellulose material in terms of mechanical, thermal, and other properties. That means we don't need to cut the trees. If we need cellulose, right away we can into seed forming. So, what are the materials? Okay, these are the components existing from green seaweed. How to make materials? Because what kind of materials? Generally, Pharmaceutical they try to look for and timely drug delivery.
Hello. Hello, Dr. Sandhanalakshmi. We can't hear actually.
Nutrients apply to your plants. Garden. So what we did, like I said, first we collect the sample and we do the cellulose extraction. This procedure is explained. We use the sodium hypochlorite and alkali. There are a lot of steps are there. We try to extract the cellulose. Once we extract the cellulose, we need to do the characterization to make sure, yeah, it is cellulose. Conventional chemical tools, we use IR, XR, DTG, and NMR. And when we make the film, we use the hand casting method. We do the
Hello.
Hello.
Dr. Sandhanalakshmi. I think the slide is not changing.
Yes. Where? Oh, really?
The slide one is
slide now?
We are seeing the first
slide. Number?
Slide number maybe 2, I think. 2.
Really? Oh my God.
Now it's changing.
It's not changing?
Yeah, now it's changed. Now changing.
Now, actually, I'm talking about the thin film material. That is slide number 7. Is it visible?
Right now it's okay.
Oh my God. So this is what I said before, like, the concentration and the component extracted from cellulose. This is the table, it's showing the values. And these are the methods we use for cellulose extraction. And this is the final material. And now I am talking about how to make a material, thin film or food package from this cellulose.
Yes. Can you just show the earlier slides, just a few minutes, yeah? Can you run through the earlier slides from 2?
Yeah, this one. Visible?
Before that, we couldn't see actually that one. Only second one we saw. Please show the third one and then, yeah.
This is third.
Okay.
Visible?
Potential application. Okay. Visible now. Okay.
This one.
Okay. Okay, please continue.
So what we do, we make sure the cellulose is matching with the conventional quality, and we try to do the lab casting, hand casting method, and we prepare the thin film. Then we characterize the thin film. So for this, we use ionic liquid because cellulose solubility in the conventional days we use ionic liquid of imidazolium family. So we take the seaweed, we extracted the cellulose. This extracted cellulose is dissolved in ethyl methyl imidazolium acetate. This is a conventional one for ionic liquid cellulose solubility. Then this slide shows how you are casting the full package film. We take the glass plate, we use the doctor blade with suitable for the solution. This everything we did inside the fume ambient condition, relative humidity, everything we maintain. And once we make the solution, we allow the solution at the room temperature, or sometimes we do degassing, because even the small micro or micro bubbles may spoil the final polymer film. So we make sure there is no air bubbles inside the solution. Once there is no air bubble, then after a certain time, sometimes we do allow overnight, like 12 hours, we leave the solution in ambient condition. We do the casting on the glass plate, and after casting, we put it in the like coagulant solution. Generally, the solution is water plus some surfactant. Generally, we use SDS with very minimum quantity, like 0.5 to 1% and this is the after when you soak it in the water for a few hours, we keep on changing the water and make sure the uninteracted or the ionic liquids, some whatever the solvents we use, will leach out to the water. And we try to remove and dry to the again. This is the final film. There you can see we can literally write by normal ballpoint pen. Like this is the cellulose film derived from RNC without any aging. So the film is dry, very rigid, commercial polyethylene film, and we did all kind of characterization to make sure, yeah, this film is good. And we did the optical transparency. They okay. They are not, contains much, like when you see the quality lit brown or the optical trans, they need a bright, they want to see the fruits or whatever they are covering with your film. So when the film is very transparent, so they say that. So we did the optical transparency, and if we are getting a good one like this is optically transparent, so we can consider this as a food package film. So this is the hello. Hello. Hello, Dr. Sheetala.
Hello. Hello.
Is it? Yes, tell me.
That is from some delegates actually.
Okay. So what they're telling?
I think they may be by mistake, maybe. You can continue.
Okay, so what we did, instead of making only the pure cellulose film, what we did, we tried to make in situ silver nanoparticle loaded film. And sometimes we also did the neem leaf. We took the extract and we made the film. So in most of the cases, these films are very rigid and transparent. So what I am trying to say is, from the green seaweed, we are able to extract the cellulose and try to dissolve in the ionic liquid, and we make the film that can be of very suitable quality for as a food package or some wraps. So in addition to that, what we did, we also converted the cellulose to carboxyl derivative. We did the carboxylation reaction and tried to convert the OH group into COOH. So that means that water insoluble cellulose can be converted as a soluble form of compound, that is carboxylated cellulose, that we call it as seaweed carboxymethylated cellulose. That also we did, and we made the film that is of quite good quality like this one. But the only thing is, in carboxymethylated cellulose, we don't need any ionic liquid, because ionic liquid, people are telling it's green, but it do have a lot of negative inherent qualities that is yet to be explored or presented. So we try to make this carboxylated version that is quite soluble in water, and we made the film, and we did the same procedure, only the carboxylation procedure we did, and we are able to get this compound and we prepare the film. And this is how it looks. These AFM pictures, when you see the D1 AFM, when you see the white color spot, it belongs to silver nanoparticle. So what we did, we took the carboxymethyl cellulose and silver nitrate in situ in the solution. We made the silver nanoparticle and we made the film. So when you made the film, this silver is formed, nanoparticle formation happen inside the solution. So we get the film of brown color, but it has the inherent quality of silver nanoparticles. So this silver nanoparticle distribution, size, and the homogeneous nature are confirmed by the AFM images. So we can make two kinds of films from seaweed, the green seaweed. One is cellulose, another is carboxymethylated cellulose. So when you consider the solubility, I said the cellulose is soluble in ionic liquid. How fast is solubility? When you see the first picture, I think this slide. Hello?
Slide is not changing now.
Oh my God. Now?
No. Seaweed cellulose preparation is here.
8. Slide number 8.
Slide number 8.
Now?
No, no.
Slide number 9?
No, no, it is still 8.
No. Now?
It's not changing.
I don't know. Can I stop and share it again or?
And just stop and again you share. Then maybe.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll do one thing, Dr. Sheikla. I can send the file to you. Maybe somebody can share. I can. Is it okay?
Yeah. Please send to me.
Yeah, I'll do it now once again. I'm stop sharing and I'll sending the file
yeah?
to you.
Please send
Yeah,
to me
by
the
email.
email.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing now. Slides are not moving. File name. Kaladi presentation. Stop sharing. Kaladi lecture March 25. Kaladi. This is the one. Slow. This is too bad. 9 MB போகுமா 25 MB போகுமா Check your mail. I sent actually.
Mail, email, I will check.
Yeah. Maybe if you open it would be more helpful.
My Yahoo ID, yeah? You have sent it in my Yahoo ID.
No. Whatever you sent today morning, the link, that ID I sent. One second.
Okay.
I reply to the mail, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I will see.
Start sharing கொடுக்கணும்ல திரும்ப. சரிடா, அப்ப மீட்டிங்ல மட்டும் இருக்கனா, ஷேர் பண்ணவே வேண்டாமா?
இங்கே நினைக்காது. Okay, then shall I share it here?
Yeah, you can do it, please. நம்மளுக்கு தெரியுமா? எனக்கு தெரியும்.
கூகுள்ல ஓபன் வச்சுக்கோங்க. நீங்க இதெல்லாம் வந்து ஜூம் பண்ண முடியாது. அது அவங்களோட இது. நீங்க அவங்க பின் பண்ணி வைக்க முடியுமா? இல்லைன்னா பின் பண்ணீங்கன்னா கொஞ்சம் பெருசா ஆகும்.
Is it okay now?
Hello?
Yeah.
I think you have to stop slide sharing.
I did. I stopped, right?
You stopped. I am showing you. Can you see
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. It's visible for me now.
Yeah, dissolution of ethyl methyl.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay,
It's
okay.
fine.
Okay.
It's fine. So, like I said, we use ionic liquid to dissolve the cellulose because cellulose solubility is very, very minimum in other solvents. The first picture, when you see the moment when you add cellulose inside the ionic liquid, that is ethyl methyl imidazolium ionic liquid, we can see this the moment even the 0 minute that this the reaction speed is very quite higher when you see the some kind of disturbance is happening, but within 10 minutes we can see the clear solution of cellulose. So the solubility of ionic liquid is very, very good for the cellulose, and we are able to get the film. Both the film, when you see, the first one is, like I said, the CV-based carboxylated, also these CV cellulose film. So we need maximum 10 minutes to dissolve the cellulose derived from the marine CV and try. Then we do the casting, we get the film. This is of package quality or wrap quality. Next, please. Yeah. So how to characterize the material? Like I said, all conventional tools we use, right from IR, XRD, NMR, and TGA to prove a point. Yeah, this is a quality of cellulose with the functional groups of matching with that, and the XRD peaks are, it's not very crystalline that as we expected, and the NMR, the other things are, of course, the TGA we did just to make sure whether, because the seaweed is coming from natural resources, like I mentioned, it has a lot of ash contents. When you see the thermogravimetric analysis, still close to 800 we performed because we are very sure this material has a lot of ash contents. These ash contents are quite stable beyond 500, 600. So the remaining mass we are matching with this 30%, close to 30% mass was we are matching with the mass related to the ash content. And there is the peak, it's close to the 21 that belongs to XRD and other functional groups. Of course, it's expected 3,400 to 600 that belongs to the hydroxyl because the cellulose has a lot of OH. Whereas the specific functional group of COC is lying somewhere close to 1021. So we were very sure whatever we are getting from this green alba fasciata and whatever we are doing extraction and end up in getting the cellulose of conventional quality. Next, again, the next one is we did the similar IR to make sure whatever the film we make from ionic liquid dissolved seaweed cellulose does have the quality of ionic liquid. Of course, from the IR we are able to find there is a thing. So what is the overall conclusion from the green seaweed to preparing the extracting cellulose and converting into carboxymethylated cellulose? Carboxymethylated cellulose, the quality, the final conclusion is we are able to get close to 16% of the seaweed cellulose. We can dissolve in ethyl methyl imidazolium acetate at 90 degrees Celsius. The total dissolving time is just 10 minutes. So what we did is when we prepare the film and we soak it in the water, the ionic liquid is a water soluble. We were able to recover the ionic liquid from the water bath and we reuse it close to 4 or 5 times. And whatever we are getting the final film, the quality is same. So these films are going to be applied, obviously food industry, or maybe there's some textile, and more than that, these films are basics of the wound healing or the surgical or pharmaceutical packages, dressings, where whatever it's already existing, these kind of materials may replace, or some places already replaced to a certain extent because of its green quality, biodegradability, and biostability, and edible. It's all edible. Even by mistake, it's reaching your cells. I think it's of no harm. So this is the first part. The second part is the same alva we fixed because we know we love this polymer because of the abundant growth. And we try to, in this case, instead of concentrating on cellulose, we try to concentrate on this another portion, that is alva. Alva portion is another key component in the alva species. We try to remove this alvan, and how to use. What we did is we use this alvan and to make this scaffold, tissue scaffold, 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional scaffold we make, and from the same seaweed. Why this alvan is so specific compared to other biopolymers? Like I mentioned, it's sulfated. It's a sulfated seaweed. When the sulfate group is there, automatically it comes with the own benefit of antimicrobial and antifungal and other property that is of biological importance. And one more thing is compared to other component like carrageenan or fucoidan, because these 3 component are sulfated seaweed, sulfated polysaccharide, but this alvan has a special quality because of the presence of the uranic groups. These uranic groups are quite rare in other polysaccharide, whereas in the case of alvan, this is the structure of alvan. Next slide, please. This alvan structural unique features. This is the one. When you see the structure, these are the 2 repeating units, A and B are repeating units, and you can see the sulfate moiety is connected with a lot of OH and COH groups. So what does it mean? This OH can be converted or carboxylated or grafted with other polymers for more benefit. So these 2 with the uranic acid, of course, it has a lot of glucose, galactose, and mannose. Mannose is a minor amount. The property of alvan belongs to the presence of the uranic acid moiety because it's behaved totally different compared to other seaweed sulfated polysaccharide like carrageenan and fucoidan. So how much the concentration we can extract from this alva seaweed is close to 8 to 29% of algae dry mass. We get this sulfated seaweed polysaccharide. So how to do the extraction? We collect the samples and we wash, we dry, and we do everything. And what we did is we use autoclave. we use, like if we take 0.5 gram, we try to add 100 to 150 ml of water. There is a ratio is there after we calibrated, and we do autoclave at 90 degrees Celsius for 1 hour. Then when we get the final material, we try to use the muslin cloth and we try to filter the thing, and whatever the supernatant liquid we are getting, we use isopropanol, and we afterwards we do the normal filtration. So we end up in getting a white or the pale straw color, the material that is of water soluble material coming from same Alba fasciata. It is not cellulose, but we are getting this, and we were able to make scaffold. We can even made some films. We were coating the same Alvan in polymer surface because the polymer membranes are facing the fouling problem. We try to coat this material because it's a sulfated seaweed polysaccharide with uranic moiety is there, and we were able to do how to control the fouling by using this. We did the all analysis to confirm the quality, physical and chemical properties. And when you see the, like I mentioned, when you see the uranic acid moiety is close to 14%. This is something really different compared to others. And the sulfur quantity is, this is from CHNS analysis, we are getting close to 7. And from the TGA, we know it's the Alba, the species has close to 38% of ash content, and protein, carbohydrate, and other things are normal. So this is the chemical composition of Alvan we are recovering from or extracting from this seaweed. So what we did, we made scaffold, like 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional. First, we tried to make the film, and what we did, we were very sure we were able to make the films, but we wanted to go for the bio scaffolds, 3-dimensional. We made it in a small scaffold structure, like, we have the cubical structure at our lab, and we, whatever the solution, the Alban solution, because it's water soluble, so we dissolve in water, and we use, instead of the commercial cross linkers like butylaldehyde or bicarboxylic acid, we use calcium chloride. Calcium, because calcium is a green cross linker, and this is ionic cross linking, not covalent. So we use calcium chloride solution of 0.1 m and close to that concentration. We made sure the total alkalinity or the total pH of the solution is close to 9. The solution is pH 9. Then we pour it in the small cubical structure. We've made it in that, and we put it in the freeze thaw method, like we did it. And when we do that, we were able to get the small cubes of whatever size we choose, but it has a lot of pores. These pores are developed because we are doing this freeze thaw method of separation. So in the picture, what we are showing is like a normal film. Similarly, we are able to get the 3-dimensional scaffold of the same polymer Alvan, and we did the cross-linking. The NMR structure clearly shows the first one is the normal Alvan material, whereas the second one is 3-dimensional scaffold. In the 3-dimensional scaffold, the cross-linking happened with presence of calcium chloride. The calcium is doing the cross-linking process, so obviously some peaks are disappearing, some peak intensities are increasing. That is indirectly proving a point that, yeah, cross-linking happened. And of course, we did the swelling test and water solubility and different things with the media and some commercial solvent to make sure how many days the scaffold is not soluble in water. So we know, like, uncross-linked and cross-linked one, the solubility we compared, obviously the cross-linked one is a more stable due to the presence of ionic cross-linking. This is again the TGA. It shows the initial weight loss is due to the moisture. The next one is belongs to the polymer backbone, but here again you are getting the close to the lot of biomass residue that belongs to ash content. This is the AFM pictures, the surface image of the 3D scaffold. Here the first two are the AFM pictures. You can see this is the cross-linked one with a lot of roughness. It shows so something is happening there. Whereas in the same pictures, you can see the porous structure, the big pores. Like I mentioned, when we prepare the material, we made sure that we are getting a porous structure. And that was confirmed by the SEM analysis. We have a big pore structure. So the main intention is, if you have a porous stuff, if you want to load cells or drug, whatever its final application. I'm not a biological person, but I'm a material one. So when we made the material, my student, PhD student, she loaded the cell lines and we tested how far it can grow on the surface of the porous scaffold. It was confirmed, I think we published this one. And this is again, the final one is the SEM image with EDAX. So this EDAX is showing like how it's distributed, because of course this carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, and apart from that we have that calcium cross-linked one. When you see that SEM image, the top portion has a very small pores, whereas in the lower portion has the bigger pores. That means this is more exposed to the air side. When you are preparing a material, the material exposed to air side is tend to develop the bigger pores, whereas the material close to the surface, whether it's a glass plate or the plastic module, whatever it is, try to make the smaller pores. So according to this SEM analysis, we were able to make the pore size from micron to millimeter range. So we have to do the trial and error, and we can even optimize the more uniform pore structure of micron range so that we can load cell lines and study for the future applications. So the overall conclusion is the same Alba fasciata CV, we were able to extract the alvein and we were able to make thin film and scaffold for biological applications. The third part I want to highlight is how to control the fouling. Like I said, polymer membranes, the problem is the fouling. So there are many methods people are using to control the fouling. But here what we try to do is how to control the fouling by using our biopolymers. It's coming from Marine Resources. What we did is out of all the polymers, the polyacrylonitrile, that polymer is quite stable compared to other polyether sulfone, polysulfone, polyvinyl fluoride, all commercial polymer membranes. This is a bit stable. So we took this polymer, we tried to make a hollow fiber. Hollow fiber, we used the jet spinning method, and this piece of work I did it in Italy, and I prepared the hollow fiber, and we characterize and we check with coating some of our ketosine. Ketosine is again coming from Marine Resources. We coated the ketosine of lower concentration on the surface of the hollow fiber membranes, and we try to do how far it can sustain the fouling. Fouling major, it's not chemical fouling, it's biological fouling. The bacterial growth and contamination, how far this ketosine can prevent as a shield or layer to develop our fouling resistant membrane. So how to prepare the membrane? The first one, I made like 4 to 5 different kind of membranes, because the membrane, the property mainly depend on the morphology. Morphology is decided by the experimental condition and the solvents used, or the coagulation bath used, or the temperature you made the membrane. So when you see, we just name like, because these are the number, how many numbers of membrane you are using, like 294C means 293 other membranes are made. Nothing else is important. Like this is all just numbers, just for our reference in the lab. Like, we make membrane like 100 meters and store this. Okay, this belongs to 294C batch. So what is the condition? This all 4 thing, the PAN is same, polyacrylonitrile is same, and the solvent is like we use here N-methylpyrrolidone. And in some case, in 315B, we use dimethylformamide. Whereas the PVP is an pore former. Polyvinyl pyrrolidine, we use different concentration of. So the polymers and solvent more or less same, only the concentration is differing. Whereas in the PAN concentration, the first one is 12, here also 12. But the PVP concentration, I increased from 8 to 10 here. Again here, but here the NMP concentration I reduce. Similarly, here in the case of DMF, we use PVP is more, like 15 weight percentage, and we 5-8%, and this DMF we use, and the bore fluid. Bore fluid is a liquid we try to feed inside when you are making a hollow fiber so that we get the holes inside. It's like a straw. You can imagine hollow fiber like the normal straw we use for the tender coconut. So these are like straw. We need to get the uniform hole inside. The bore fluid, again, we change generally N-methylpyrrolidine water 50-50, but here in the third case we use only water. Generally when you use only water, we get more faster phase inversion and we may get more dense membrane. But then the last case we use the DMF in water 50-50. And the flow rate is also very crucial when you are making a hollow fiber. Flow rate also some cases is very high and other cases is very low. And the flow rate we maintain. The temperature is the last parameter that critically decide the phase inversion kinetics. So Generally, we use ambient, whereas in the case of hollow fiber, we use 60 to 70. So we have 4 different set of membranes with a different condition, but the core polymer is same. Polyacrylone hydrolysis is a polymer we used, and we got the hollow fibers. So what we do now, we have a hollow fibers. We try to coat with some of our biopolymers, and we have to test how far is stable against fouling, biological fouling. So we have the pan membrane, we casted, we are getting the next, whatever the casted hollow fiber, and we use the concentration of close to 1 to 2 8% of ketosine, we dissolve in acetic acid, we have the solution. And for the thing, we need to do the cross-linking also we did. And this is a schematic figure, how showing like, you know, how the cross-linking is happening. These materials, we are telling this all microbes, and we are getting a the pan membrane coated with ketosine hollow fiber membrane with membrane fouling stability. So this is how we did the coating. Because this hollow fiber coating is little tedious. When you have a flat sheet membrane, you put it on the glass plate, you know, put sellotape and make it flat, and we do dip coating or spray coating. But in the case of hollow fiber, we have to do dip coating, but we don't have that much enough ketosine solution. So we stick the hollow fibers on our glass plate, and we prepare the solution, we dip it inside. The first pictures, this is how we did the coating. The second one is, and we have the glass flowing unit, we made the module. This is a small module we made, because this is the inlet and this is outlet. Once we prepare the coating, these membranes are coated, we put it in the microwave oven and make sure, like, you know, 40 to 60 temperature something we kept, and the membranes are dried, and make sure the membranes are not breaking, because we can't keep it in high temperature. Once the membranes, hollow fibers are coated with the ketosine, we did prepare the module. For each module, I think I kept 10 hollow fibers, and we have a specific epoxy resin. So we need to apply resin here and here. We did the coating. It's a 2-3 days long process to make a module and keep it in a vertical position, so that the hollow fibers are not, all hollow fibers are aligned in a same position, no bending or no damage is happening. So once these modules are ready, we can see we have a hollow fiber membrane of pan coated with ketosine. So once this module is ready, now we have to do this membrane performance. How to check, like, you know, water permeability, protein separation, and other parameters, how to check it. So what we did is a small setup we created. This is the module, whatever, we connected with the pressure, and this is the inlet solution, and this is the pressure. So because this module is not very big, we did it in the small level, and we try to feed. First, what we did is we check the pure water flux, how much water is coming out, liter meter per hour is a flux unit. We send the pure water as a feed, and we collected the feed, and we try to measure the weight. From that, we will apply the flux equation, and we get like, okay, 20 ml per hour. Okay, whatever. So this is the membrane performance or the quality of the ketosine coated. So once we are sufficient enough, okay, we have a membrane. Instead of normal pan membrane, we have a ketosine coating. So even the ketosine coated membrane is showing good water permeability. That means the pores are not blocked. The pores are still open, because we use very minimum concentration of ketosine. Ketosine layer is very thin. So if you use a very high concentration of ketosine, it's like you are blocking all the pores. That case, that may not be of membrane. It's like a hollow tube. Only you can pass something inside the tube and coming out. So something has to pass the membrane surface and coming out, means you need to have the pores and morphology retained, whatever you made initially. So the thin coating, and we did the same like water. We did clay we send different concentration, like 1000 ppm, 500 ppm, and different protein, bovine serum, albumin, so different protein casein we tried. So because when you're sending a protein, we try to foul the membrane, because when you're sending protein, means the membrane material, you know, contains with a little bit of protein molecules existed. So how this fouling is controlled, the presence of ketosine. So what we did, the final one to prove, this is the same images of membrane, this is the surfaces, and this is how the cross section looks. See, when you're doing cross section, there is the outer diameter, inner diameter, everything we matched. But this spiral, these channels of different, the channels of different structures we are getting, Then after this is a coating. This is after coating. What we did, this C1 shows the coating. So something was on the surface of the polyacrylonitrile membrane, but the cross section retained. There is no change because we are doing coating on the surface of the membrane, not inside the membrane. So the cross section is retained. Only the membrane surface was a little bit changed or more dense, I can see, because of the ketosine coating. So this is the protein rejection studies. We did the protein rejection with the different proteins. Obviously, in some cases, this is a coated membrane, but we did with all 4 different kind of membranes. But generally, in most of the cases, the 3,1C membrane performance was better than other membrane. Okay, this is like physical or chemical properties. How the membrane looks biologically, how to see the membranes. Then the dye test we did, the antimicrobial efficiency with, they add the blue color dye, this the biological person did. So this is the blank membrane. When you can see the presence of microbes was confirmed by the blue color. The blue is a dye they are adding, that dye is visible under the microscope. Whereas in the case of coated, when the membrane, hollow fiber membrane was coated with ketone, you can see the very minimal blue spots are appearing. That means indirectly we are trying to say this coated membrane, hollow fiber coated with ketone, do have some effect to control the fouling. So instead of going for the chemical method, people are using chemically coated or nanoparticle. Even I did it. We do some nanoparticle coating on the membrane surface or some polymer brushes or changing the thickness or some parameters or the physical treatment. Somebody do gamma treatment, laser treatment, many treatment we do. We make sure we are getting less fouled membrane. Whereas in the case of with very minimal efficiency, very minimal concentration of the ketosine, we were able to say, yeah, we can control the membrane fouling to a certain extent with a limited coating of ketosine. This again is confirmed by the same images. This A is the membrane, the polyacrylonitrile membrane without ketosine coating, where you can see in 24-hour time, you can see like chains of growth. This of the microbes, the bacterial growth. Whereas in the case of coating, I wouldn't say it's completely eradicating the fouling, but you can see that the extent it can control, it's more appreciable. So we can say the use of the marine resource polysaccharide, we can do control to a certain extent this membrane fouling phenomena. So this is my conclusion from this membrane. The similar thing we tried with the other biopolymers too, but we didn't publish the data. I think it's under revision in some cases. So the same other kind of biopolymers can also be utilized, but to a certain condition, because generally biopolymers are highly viscous in nature. So we shouldn't spoil the membrane surface. We shouldn't block the pores. We have to retain the surface and cross section, but we have to add, like it's like adding a thin layer of cheese or something on your bread. Make sure the thin layer exists, but without spoiling the background, the remaining the polymer. We can use these biopolymers to a certain extent to control fouling. When you control fouling, of course, you can use it for different applications. Dairy industry, the maximum the dairy industries, or generally the lactoferrin, the material, the protein molecules are more, so it tend to get more fouling. So in that cases, people generally do after 2 or 3 treatment, they do backwashing or chemical washing or some other parameters they use. So instead of using a pure membrane, we can develop a membrane with biopolymer coating so that we can say, yeah, we were able to control a fouling to a certain extent. So these are the tip of an iceberg. I think what I'm telling is very limited. When you go through and when you explore yourself, there are benefit, multi. So it's like a web. It can occupy, this web can occupy right from food to fuel to health to cosmetics to pharmaceutic to even sensor application we did with these polymers, biopolymers. The applications are many, but the thing is, we try to do more of cultivation, because now we are totally depending on, like, whatever the central labs are doing in cultivating, or some industries are investing in cultivation. But of course, in Tamil Nadu coastal zone, I myself noticed some people's, after especially the tsunami, the people's main income other than fishing is the seaweed cultivation. The government is supporting for that. So when you do more of cultivation, if you have sufficient quantity of biomass, I think you can explore in various ways, and I'm sure it's more beneficial for our human, not only human, our nature, because we are not going to depend anymore on the commercial, conventional polymers belongs to the petroleum based. We are diverting to other green polymers on top of that. And one more additional thing is, compared to other seaweed, the green seaweed can go abundant growth. It's like, I think in 2008 Olympics, you noticed in China with big news, like, this various ponds, small pond, river is sudden growth of green seaweed, because it's like a pollution. When the water is polluted, it can grow. So it's like you have a stinky smell and it's unwanted substance on the pond. So we have to remove. That means one way you are controlling, they call it as a green bloom. So you can control the pollution, and you can harvest. You can, unless and otherwise you find more and more applications, people, they may not be very much interested in cultivating. Or maybe in two ways, you are controlling a pollution, you are developing a material, whereas you are trying to avoid the chemical from the society. I guess it's more beneficial for nature, pollution control, and human health. And thank you. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. I think you can switch on the video now.
Yeah, I'm doing.
Okay, we want to see you.
See. I did it, I guess.
Okay, it was a very nice lecture.
Thank you.
Totally environment friendly, based on bioresources, giving high-tech applications actually. These membranes have got very versatile applications, and the talk was very interesting.
Hopefully, I'm satisfied.
And we could understand the different types of polysaccharides derived from the bio origin, especially seaweeds. Actually, we are familiar with chitosan only.
Yeah.
This is very new to us, and it was very interesting. We are interested in this work also, actually. And these are cost-effective and environment green work, actually.
See, that's more important.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And the session is now open for discussion. And you can ask questions now. Delegates, please. Okay, Manisha, please unmute yourself and ask question, Manisha. Manisha raised her hand.
Yes, Manisha.
Oh, always her hand was raised actually. I thought she has some question.
Okay.
Any other question? Anybody else? Yeah. Lakshmi.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening. I'm Lakshmi Priya.
Hi.
I'd like to ask how ionic liquid dissolves cellulose. What is the role of ionic liquid for dissolving cellulose?
Role, because this cellulose is a straight chain, because it's difficult to break with our normal solvents, but the ionic liquid has a special call, because ionic liquids itself is a special. In late 1990s, I think the first paper comes on 2001 from the Queen's University Belfast, Professor Sedan. They are the one, this is kind of invention, they can say, because so far people are using cellulose with some thiourea, some other methods. They try to break the straight chain into small pieces. And this ionic liquid has a special property, because this ionic liquid, there is cationic group as well as anionic group. Okay, this is special for only ionic liquid. And this ionic liquid is a liquid, but it's room temperature. It looks like a solid and doesn't have any vapor pressure. That's why people are calling it as a green one. This ionic liquid has ability, because of this phenomena. This has the chemical orientation, this plus group and minus group, everything is there. This is the one, it was invented, developed by Professor Sedan from Queen's University Belfast. First time that ionic liquid do have a property or the ability to dissolve the cellulose. It's breaking the chains. That too, it happens in 10 minutes. I myself suffer, surprised when you put it in the liquid, in the ionic liquid under the microscope. We are watching in 10 minutes. We are completely taking a video and photo every minute. In 10 minutes, we are able to get the solution because of the special property of ionic liquids. It has the ability because of the way it's arranged. Because ionic liquids again is a tailor-made one. We can make it's a billion combination is possible in ionic liquid. Okay, I want only A, I want C. Yeah, you can make. Similarly, this methyl imidazolium has the ability to break the cellulose chains, and we are able to get that. This is what happened in a quick time. The case of our
Yeah,
TVC.
thank you, ma'am.
Because this cellulose is same like the whatever cellulose we are getting. That's what I try to say. We get the cellulose from the marine source, but the cellulose is exactly like from the land cellulose. The property is same. Okay, so solubility it's achieved with ionic liquid.
Okay, ma'am. Is there any other alternative for ionic liquid? Because it is very expensive, no?
Yeah. That's why we recover and reused actually. It's expensive.
Oh, yeah. And is this films are porous? Can we do it for the absorption studies?
Yeah. Though it looks dense when you see the same image, there are a lot of pores. Yeah, we can do. It's only the things how you're making the film. The condition need to be little altered if you want more porous. But what we so far made is these films are dense, but it has a pores. I tried oxygen transport property, water vapor permeability. I tried it's connecting. Water is penetrating, air is penetrating. It's not completely dense.
Okay, ma'am. Is the cellulose films are hydrophilic in nature? Can we do it for the water purification or desalination like
Because it's not soluble in water. That's why you're using ionic liquid. It's insoluble in water. You can use it.
Okay, ma'am. And
You
can
can
you
try.
briefly suggest what are the disadvantages of these biopolymers over the synthetic polymers?
Synthetic polymers, I wouldn't find any negative parameters so far, but I can say we don't have enough biomass to explore. Like I said, there's some central government CSR labs, they are investing, they bought lands, acres or hectares in the sea, and they are cultivating. So other than that, like we are growing trees in our home garden, so we can say we have this tree, we can cut and take cellulose. Like that, we don't have a freedom. Of course, some companies are investing a lot, but apart from that, I don't find a negative thought about this because it's more beneficial for us.
Okay, ma'am.
Not only
Okay,
this,
ma'am. Thank
it's
you.
a carbon dioxide capture that is the main parameter. It's already doing it. CO2 capturing is doing already.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Ma'am is actually have got very good experience abroad, and if students have some doubts, you can ask about the higher studies also, yeah?
See, sure.
Especially if you can discuss about something related to the Marie Curie Fellowship, it will be helpful to
Okay.
our students.
See, Marie Curie is a program funded by European Union. I know who's Marie Curie. Everybody knows who's Marie Curie. But my case, what I did when I was doing postdoc in Japan, I thought about this, and we have to write a proposal. We have to write a proposal, and we have to find a host. We have to choose in Europe, because Europe is quite vast. I think 28 small countries are there, and we have to choose this lab. I want to do Marie Curie because this professor is matching with my interest. So I wrote a proposal. There are a lot of things are there in the why this proposal, why this. I know you know what to do with the proposal, objective and literature, experimental part, and the expected outcome, and what experiment exactly would do. And we have to do if something goes wrong, how to do that. If some objective 2 is going wrong, how you manipulate, how you overcome with this another parameter. So it's like 30 pages proposal, I guess. It's 10 pages of scientific part and 20 pages, and they will ask why you are coming to Europe, because I'm from India. Why you are coming to Europe, what you do for Europe. And after gaining the Marie Curie, what you are going to take back to your country, that is India, what you are going, which technology you will take, and how far you can. Actually, the main thing is we have to develop the science and research attitude to students. This is a Marie Curie program, maximum. We have to develop interest for, because people are going for engineering or medicine. The basic science is going down, so they promote more of basic science. Write a proposal with the beneficial for the societal mission. And I wrote the proposal and I chose Italy, Professor Drioli and Professor Figoli as my host. They are Institute on Membrane Technology, and submitted to the European Union. There are a lot of stages, and somehow I got the funding. I got close to 1,70,000 euros for 2 years of my proposal. So it includes my stipend, chemical, travel, everything. And this proposal is dealing with, again, water pollution. I wrote how to control groundwater pollution using ionic liquid loaded microparticles. So, if you have anybody wants to write a proposal for Marie Curie or European Union, they may be, if they have any doubt, because I'm a Iraxis India ambassador. It's my job to promote science in the name of Marie Curie. If anybody has a doubt, or if anybody is willing to do, I think they can contact me. I'm ready to help these people how to develop a proposal. So this is more of creating awareness, and more to do with this application. Whatever you are doing, it goes to the civil society. Obviously, the taxpayers' money we are using and we are enjoying in the lab. So that benefit has to go to the taxpayers again. That is the motto of the All Science project. So I got my funding. I think I got, like, yeah, it's good actually. Exposure was nice, and yeah, I'm a Marie Curie lifetime member, so I have the option to enter and vote every year for the Marie Curie Assembly. And it's India. I think now a lot of programs are coming from Europe and India bilateral from this European Union. Now the Horizon 2020 is over. They introduced another one, Horizon. So even they people, they can go for even PhD. There is IT, and they call then networking program. They can do 3 years PhD with a Marie Curie, or you can write after PhD or 4 years of research experience. You can write a proposal, or even the short time visit faculties can go for the bilateral short time visit, like 3 months. They used to come to our lab in Italy. Indian universities, they have a bilateral program. There are a lot of steps are there. Even 15 days, some professors, they used to come. Even you can get funding and you can conduct the Marie Curie Iraxis sponsored conferences in India. So there are a lot of possibilities in European Union program. They are ready to support, especially India is a major partner for them. Even this year, I think maximum number of Marie Curie fellows who got funding from this year is India. 88 students from India got the Marie Curie funding. So the Indian contribution is increasing in the Marie Curie platform. So it's how we are using it. There are a lot of opportunities are lying, and we have to make sure and pick up the right one for our thing. If anybody is willing to do, sure, I am ready to help you people.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure to interact with you people.
Any doubts from students? You can ask your doubts. Anybody? Okay, if there are no questions, we can wind up the session. I invite Miss Leshmi Priya Ravindran to mention a word of thanks.
Everyone, and thank you, ma'am. I'd like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Santana Lakshmi for giving an excellent coverage on the topic, materials fabrication from marine polysaccharide for environment lab. Your talk gave us a new process technique for making cellulose films using ionic liquids from seaweeds. preparation of solvent from seaweeds, which can be considered as a perfect replacement for alginate, which is highly costly material, and the synthesis of hollow fiber coated chitosan and its application. We are highly inspired by your works, ma'am, and the organizers also would like to acknowledge our sincere gratitude towards you. And with these warm words of kind message, we move to the end of the today's webinar. Thank you, everyone.